Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso@thewatchbox.com. It's in the description below. That's my email address for your questions about the pricing of this or any watch you see on any Watchbox platform. Please reach out to me directly. Email me at tmosso@thewatchbox.com. Today, we're discussing the new 2021 Rolex Explorer II. It's the second 42mm Explorer II and unofficially the 50th anniversary version of the watch. Let's talk about what hasn't changed, and then we'll run a comparison with the previous model. So 42 millimeters, it retains the size introduced back in 2011, a bigger and bolder Explorer II. The watch measures 12.5 millimeters thick, 50.1 millimeters from lug tip to lug tip, and if you include the solid end links, the absolute distance across the wrist is 53.1 millimeters. A change here. The space between the lugs is now 22 millimeters rather than the previous 21, and that has been taken out of the inner faces of the lugs, so they are a little bit narrower and more tapered, and the center link is now 22 millimeters across. Let's throw this watch on my wrist, which is 16 centimeters in circumference, and you can see it fits exactly the same as the old one. I don't recommend these watches for wrists smaller than 15 centimeters circumference because they are so broad, but with static bezels, they're also relatively thin. Unlike a lot of the bigger Rolex watches like the Yachtmaster II or the Deep Sea, the 42 Explorer II is a broad, flat, and elegant watch, almost more of a cushion case than a round case, and you can see that it will fit easily underneath a dress cuff. There's your over the top. It really is pushing out to the edge of my wrist. Now, let's talk about the bracelet. The hardware here has changed. Now, this is where I'm going to yoke my previous generation 216570 into service. We'll start with the lug profiles and the end links. So you can see the new watch features narrower lugs. They are absolutely skinnier than on the previous watch. The case is not broader side to side, but the center link is larger and the lugs themselves have been thinned out. Now the thing is, you can follow the bracelet all the way down to the clasp internals and find that the newer one, in my right hand, remains broader than the clasp internal of the older one. You can also see that the clasp internal of the older watch features media blasting and the clasp internal of the newer watch features polish. Now if you continue to compare the new watch to the old watch, you will find that the new watch does include a clasp that is slightly broader. That's the new clasp right there. It is broader to contain a broader bracelet. Internally, not a whole lot has changed. We still have the Rolex 5mm Easy Link system, which is the equivalent of adding or removing one sizable link. That moves in and out without tools. We also have 3 divots drilled inside the clasp, so you can use your strap tool to re-anchor the bracelet inside of the clasp. So none of that has changed. The way it works with the lift lock system, you've got the beak and a hook. That latches once. The second latch is the clamshell. That has not changed. You can see externally, once these clasps are closed, very little is different. Extremely similar. This watch is broader. Now, dial side, case flanks. Let's talk about this. You can see head-on that the new watch features narrower lugs. They are a little bit more elegant, and you can see that probably best from this angle. When you compare those two lug profiles, maybe even comparing the outer lugs would be better. You can really see from this angle that the newer watch features narrower lugs, but it's subtle. Less subtle, we'll turn to the dial side here. See, the bezel has not really changed. The older one has a little bit of wear that's evident as it is an older watch, but that's not a product of production. The newer watch is just, a few weeks old, so the lacquer inside the bezel is a little bit more crisp. The dial side, lots changed at the center. You can see that the hands are blacked out at center on the older watch, in memory of previous Explorer II references from the 70s and early 80s. And then you can see right here we have the hands on the newer watch. They are all polished 18-karat white gold. Of course, the newer watch, as with all new Rolex models launched since 2018, features a little crown between Swiss and Made, and of course we don't have that on the older watch. If you look carefully, and you will see this, the newer dial is printed brighter and bolder. Look at the Rolex script and the Rolex crown. Here you can see it's a little bit lighter, almost like a lighter gauge press was used. Here, the letters are both brighter and thicker, and you can see that's true of the crown as well. The Explorer II script is a little bit more vivid on the new watch, and you can see at the base, superlative chronometer officially certified. On this watch, it is brighter. This watch has a little bit more of a matte black to its dial, whereas this one is definitely glossier. These are small changes. The big changes, if you want to spot the new watch, remember, it's the little crown and it's the polished hand centers. That's the easiest way to spot the changes. The new watch, okay, still a super case, just less super when viewed head-on. Still very sheer, still no bevels. The bezel has a little polished outer lip that you can see, and then that radial lapping machine pattern, you can see it's like a sunburst that emanates from an imaginary center point. This is something that's been part of the Explorer II bezels since the first one back in 1971. A lot of folks thought that the watch would go to a ceramic bezel this year. I never thought it would. I thought this is too key to the identity of the watch to have that brushed pattern and to have it in metal, and clearly Rolex felt the same way. On the dial, it's a lacquer base. The hands as well as the indices are white gold. It uses Rolex's chromalite lume. Why white gold hands? Because they will not tarnish and oxidize. You will see the chromalite lume. Now, it is blue. You will also find that on the previous generation model. Rolex makes its own lume. Rolex makes its own cases, bracelets, and clasps. All of this is 904L steel, meaning it is more resistant to corrosion than standard 316L stainless steel. It is so anti-corrosive that Rolex boasts you can soak these in salt water, and after bathing in the ocean, you need not rinse them. With conventional 316 steel, you do need to rinse the watch. Underneath the case back, a new movement. Caliber 3285. You'll also find it in the GMTs. 70-hour power reserve versus 48-hour power reserve. For me, the most substantive changes are probably in shock protection, as the new movement features Rolex's proprietary Paraflex shock protection, which is a little bit better than, say, Inca Block or Kif. It's intended for sports watches explicitly. But then another big change, the rotor now pivots on a ball bearing system rather than the previous movement's jeweled staff. Jeweled staffs are very smooth, but they're a little bit prone to fracture. The ball bearing system here is very, very solid. The Chronergy escapement, which is Leica etched, is basically Rolex's answer to the Omega coaxial. It helps to extend the power reserve as well as precision, and allows Rolex to offer 5-year warranties like Omega offers with its coaxials. The watch also features a larger mainspring inside a barrel that is thinner, and the drivetrain has been reprofiled. That's how you get to 70 hours. It beats away at 4 hertz or 8 beats per second. We have both stop seconds, or hacking, and the ability to set 2 time zones independently. You can see I'm able to set the local time and actually jump the date forward or backwards as I travel. I'm able to jump 1 time zone at a time while the seconds hand continues to move, and the second time zone, 24-hour hand, as well as the minute hand are undisturbed. Pull the crown out all the way, and you activate the hacking seconds function. Now, inside the case, a full balance bridge with a free sprung index for shock tolerance. The free sprung balance also allows for more precise adjustment of the movement. It is 6 position adjusted. It goes through the COSC test, which only requires 5 positions, but Rolex then takes the COSC certified movement, cases it up, and as a fully cased up watch, tests it in 6 positions to run no worse than -2 + 2 seconds per day. That is what Rolex calls a superlative chronometer, and they back that with their warranty. Of course, there is an overcoil hairspring made by hand, which allows the watch to keep good time in every position, and it is made of a blue oxidized niobium zirconium anti-magnetic alloy Rolex calls Parachrom Blue, giving this watch substantial shock resistance, anti-magnetism, and once again 100-meter water resistance. Technically, there is a lot to love about this 31 jewel movement. This watch can do it all. Reach out to Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details of the 2021 Rolex Explorer II 42.